Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So we are continuing with Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is chapter number 7, Knowledge of the Absolute. And we'll do verse 16 through 18. Verse 16. Chaturvidha bhajante mam janaha sukritino arjuna arto jignasur jnani cha bharata rishabha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. O best among the Bharatas, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. Who would like to read the purport? It's a small one, short one. Anyone? Okay, go ahead, Charanya.
Oh, best, unlike the miscreants, there are adherents of the regulative principles of the scriptures, and they are called Sukritinaha, or those who obey the rules and regulations of scriptures, the moral and social laws, and are more or less devoted to the Supreme Lord. Out of these, there are four classes of men: those who are sometimes distressed, those who are in need of money, those who are sometimes inquisitive, and those who are sometimes searching after knowledge of the absolute truth. These persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service under different conditions. These are not pure devotees because they have some aspiration to fulfill in exchange for devotional service. Pure devotional service is without aspiration and without desire for material profit. The Bhakti Rasamtra Sindhu defines pure devotion thus: one should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. When these four kinds of persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service and are completely purified by the association of a pure devotee, they also become pure devotees. As far as the miscreants are concerned, for them, devotional service is very difficult because their lives are selfish, irregular, and without spiritual goals. But even some of them, by chance, when they come in contact with a pure devotee, also become pure devotees. Those who are always busy with fruitive activities come to the Lord in material distress and at that time associate with pure devotees and become, in their distress, devotees of the Lord. Those who are simply frustrated also come sometimes to associate with pure devotees and become inquisitive to know about God. Similarly, when the dry philosophers are frustrated in every field of knowledge, they sometimes want to learn of God and they come to the Supreme Lord to render devotional service and thus transcend knowledge of the impersonal Brahman and the localized Paramatma and come to the personal conception of Godhead by the grace of the Supreme Lord or his pure devotee. On the whole, when the distressed, the inquisitive, the seekers of knowledge, and those who are in need of money are free from all material desires, and when they fully understand that material remuneration has nothing to do with spiritual improvement, they become pure devotees. As long as such a purified stage is not attained, devotees in transcendental service to the Lord are tainted with fruitive activities, the search for mundane knowledge, etc. So one has to transcend all this before one can come to the stage of pure devotional service.
Thank you, Charanya. So, translation once again. O best among the Bharatas, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unnaitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So last week we heard about four kinds of people who do not surrender unto the Supreme Lord. And it was a very nice verse, you can call it an eye-opener. It said, Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradhama mayaya aprita jnana asuram bhavam ashita. So these are the four kinds of people who do not surrender unto the Lord. The previous verse it says, those who are grossly foolish, those whose intelligence is stolen by maya, by illusion, those who are lowest among mankind, and the fourth one is those who are demoniac in nature. But here the good news is Krishna is talking about the flip side. Four kinds of people who surrender unto him. And he calls them Sukritina, means they are pious people. They are those who have, accumulated piety. So they are the ones who surrender unto the Lord. And what are those four kinds? One who is distressed, one who wants money, one who is inquisitive, and one who wants knowledge. These are the four kinds of people. And why does he also call them pious? Because somehow or the other they follow some regulative principles, moral, social laws, more or less, kind of. And they are kind of devoted to the Lord. They have that basic faith that there is God, and they have that little devotion, and they come for different reasons, like we saw these four kinds of people. Now, in the purport, we see Srila Prabhupada explains that these four kinds of people, they are not pure devotees. Why? Because they still want something, right? They want money, they are distressed, so they are trying to, somehow or the other come out of this distressful situation. They are inquisitive. That means they still don't have knowledge about the Lord, and also they want knowledge. So now Prabhupada explains that they are not pure devotees, but because they have at least come to the Lord, their devotional service starts. Their spiritual, you can say, spiritual life already has begun. A very nice verse is there which says, Adav Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha. Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritis. These are the steps. Adav Shraddha. First, we have that basic faith, right? Adav Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha. Then we start associating with devotees. Now, if you remember in the purport, we heard how many times Srila Prabhupada talked about association with devotees, especially with pure devotees. What happens when we associate with like-minded people, with spiritually minded people, then that faith which we have starts becoming more and more firm. And when we associate sadhu sangha, sadhu means a saintly person, when we associate with them, then there is anartha nivriti. Then the unwanted things within the heart, they start coming out, like lust, anger, greed, pride, etc. And then one comes to the topmost stage, which is called prema, love of God. How we can reach to that stage is what Bhagavad Gita is teaching us. But these four kinds of pious people, they still have some desire. So that means they are still looking for doing a business deal with the Lord. Like, okay, I come to you now, you remove my misery, or you give me money, or I'm inquisitive to know who you are and whatever it is. And also there are some who come for knowledge. Now in the purport, Prabhupada mentions Anyabhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Anavritam. He says that we have to come to that stage where we don't have any desire except to love the Supreme Lord, pure love for God. That is the stage, which means there is no karma in it, there's no jnana knowledge in it, nothing, absolutely nothing. There's just pure love for Him. But when these four kinds of pious people come to surrender to Krishna, they gradually start getting purified. Why? Because they start following the regulative principles. Just like when we enroll our child into school, then there is discipline followed over there. There are the certain rules that the school expects the children to follow, the students to follow. So the students need to follow that. They follow some principles, some regulations, some discipline. So also on spiritual path, there are some regulative principles that we need to follow. And what happens when we follow those regulative principles, like let me give you an example of what we eat. So whatever we are eating, if we are offering, not whatever, but whatever is recommended by the Supreme Lord, like he says, Patram, Pushpam, Phalam, Toyam, Yome Bhaktya Prayachiti. So he says that if we offer with love and devotion, these are the main two ingredients of what we offer. So if we offer with love and devotion, what he says, Patram, Pushpam, Phalam, Toyam, vegetables like leaves, flowers, fruits, and water. These are the, of course, there is an elaboration on this subject in chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita. But for right now, just to give you an example, that is one of the principles we follow, is that whatever we eat, we offer it first to the Lord, and then we take the what we call the sanctified food, which is prasadam. So how do we come about to a stage where we can start not only hearing Bhagavad Gita, but applying it in our day-to-day life? We can do that with the help of the devotees. When we associate with devotees, like we are doing right now, we are associating with each other, we are associating with Bhagavad Gita, which is association with the Lord, and we are associating with Srila Prabhupada because he has given us those purpose. So when we associate, then the purification starts. Then the jnana, knowledge, becomes vijnana, realization. Then we realize what we are hearing. Now in the purport also, the Prabhupada mentions that the four kinds of people who do not surrender unto the Lord, that who are called the miscreants, for them devotional service is very difficult. For them to follow Bhagavad Gita is very difficult. Why? Because they are selfish, they are irregular in their habits, and most important part is they have no spiritual goal at all. In fact, probably their only goal is absolutely material. But somehow or the other, if these four kind of miscreants also come in contact with a pure devotee of the Lord, their bhakti will start, their devotional service will start. And coming just some, of course, some come to the pure devotees because they are distressed, or they need some mercy or blessings. This is very popular in India. Whenever we see a saintly personality, we bow down to them and we ask for their blessings. Is that right? Yes, we ask for their blessings. We say, please bless me, or please bless my child, or please, no one says, please bless my daughter-in-law, of course. Please bless my son, so that everybody's smiling. So everybody is aware of it. Everybody. Okay. So what is it? The point to understand is that we are asking for blessings, but what have we done to deserve those blessings, right? So we want mercy, but what have we done to deserve that mercy, either from the pure devotee or from the Supreme Lord? So here we see that Prabhupada is also explaining, and Krishna also says it's okay if you're inquisitive, also come to me, no problem. Or you come to a pure devotee who will, with the help of knowledge, will be able to satisfy your inquisitive nature, or whatever you are inquisitive about. With the help of the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, the pure devotee can help one to progress on the spiritual path. Now, to understand the Bhagavad Gita and to render devotional service, it is very, very important, like we learned in chapter 4, tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadyakshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Krishna says that just try to approach a bona fide spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. So that self-realized person is the one who can help us understand the Bhagavad Gita and help us to achieve love of Krishna. Now, let's take one of the kinds of one of those four kinds of people who surrender to the Lord. Let's say they want some money. Krishna says, no problem, come to me. I will be able to give you money. Now, one may say that, oh, let me now, because I am interested in having $1 million home. So now let me surrender unto Krishna, and then soon I'm going to have $1 million home. Guess what is going to happen? When we start surrendering to the Lord, surrender actually means to follow the instructions. So when we start following the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, like chanting and reading and hearing, when we do that, then automatically that desire within the heart to get $1 million home, which is actually not wrong to get. It is okay to get. It is okay to approach the Lord for money. But what will happen, as Prabhupada explains, that gradually the heart will start getting cleansed. And when that happens, then that desire starts, the intensity of the desire starts coming down. Let's see the next verse, verse number 17. He says, of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him and he is dear to me. So you see, one who is in full knowledge, and to come to that stage of full knowledge is possible only when we have the mercy of the pure devotee of the Lord. Because full knowledge is, it's not just that we read Bhagavad Gita, we hear Bhagavad Gita and we know all of it. No, that is not possible. To really come to a stage of full knowledge, we will need to be, it says, always engaged in pure devotional service. So it's like complementary. So when we take on knowledge, then it should lead us to perform some devotional service. What could that be? It could be, it should be actually chanting, hearing, and reading. So when we do that, then what will happen when we engage in that devotional service, there is what you call the cleansing of the heart. When that cleansing of the heart takes place, then we are able to understand full knowledge. Then there is realization. Then we can say that that person is self-realized. And here Krishna says that person is the best. So the one who is in full knowledge and who's always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. And what is the result of that? Then he says that for that person, I'm very dear to him and he is very dear to me, is dear to me. So of course, who would not want to be dear to the Supreme Lord, right? Because he is the Supreme Father, he is the creator, he is the enjoyer, he is all in all, he is the cause of all causes. And from the scriptures, we hear that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if we come to that stage of self-realization with the help of knowledge, with the help of a pure devotee of the Lord, then our spiritual path becomes easy. Now, it is like we read even in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talked a lot about association with devotees. Why is that so important? Because association motivates us, it inspires us. So and it also increases our enthusiasm in spirituality, which is essential. It says utsaha, nischaya, dhairya. These are the three things. Utsaha is enthusiasm. Utsaha, nischayat, dhairya. Dhairya, we all know, is tolerance, and nischayat is determination. So when we have all this, then it helps us more in our spiritual path. And then we can, of course, association of devotees, we can say, like right now we are associating with each other, even though it's online. Of course, we miss our personal association that we used to have on a weekly basis. But this is also good. This is also association. We are able to see each other. We are able to hear each other. So then that also is as beneficial as a personal association. So if one takes on the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita and engages in devotional service, the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita is not just hearing, reading. No. So that hearing or reading is jnana, it's knowledge. but we need to convert it into Vijnana, realization. And that, of course, will lead us to purification. So the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita helps us in not only self-realizing, it helps us to reach our goal, which is to break the cycle of birth and death and go back to the spiritual world. And it also helps us realize who we really are, our constitutional position of being a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if we are situated in this pure knowledge, then Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita, there will be protection from him. And he also gives a promise. He says, Ma Suchaha. Ma Suchaha means do not fear. So the protection comes from this, from the Supreme Lord, from this material contamination. We are in the material world. So, of course, when we are in this material world, the effect of the material world is going to be there. Like, for instance, when y'all are working, doing the office work, so I am sure that you get affected by it. Yes or no? Like, whatever you're working on, whether it's successful, unsuccessful, whether the boss is happy, boss is unhappy, whatever it is, it affects us, right? So also the same thing is when we start, practicing this pure knowledge, then we are able to get the protection from the Supreme Lord and the material contamination is gradually removed. Let's go to verse number 18. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. He's making it very clear. That is the highest and most perfect goal. What is it? To attain the Supreme Lord, which means to go back to the spiritual world where Lord Krishna resides. So he's saying all these four kinds of people, they are magnanimous souls. Why? Because they are at least surrendering unto the Supreme Lord. But he says the one who's situated in knowledge, right? So there's distressed, one who wants money, who is inquisitive, and one who wants knowledge. So the one in knowledge, he says, I consider him to be just like my own self. Now, it is important to understand when he says just like my own self doesn't mean that we become Krishna. That doesn't mean we become God. No, not at all. He's trying to say that becomes like my own, which means we become qualified to enter into the spiritual world. And he says, being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me. Surety. That surety is being given by Krishna over here. He's saying, excuse me, he's saying that if we follow this path of Bhakti Yoga, which is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita, and if we are one of those four magnanimous souls, then, and if we are situated in knowledge of the Supreme Lord, then he's saying the possibility of our attaining him becomes very, what is that word? What is that word? I'm unable to remember. But basically, you understand that it becomes very easy to reach that highest and most perfect goal. So all those who come to Krishna, they are dear to him and they are considered like Mahatmas. Maha Atma. Maha means great, Atma means soul. Great soul. In the scriptures, there's a very nice verse where it says, Swayambhu Narada Shambhu Kumara Kapila Manu Pralada Janaka Bhishma Bali Vyasaki Vayam. So there are 9 Mahatmas listed, 9 different great souls are mentioned. So if we follow the Bhagavad Gita, if we surrender to the Supreme Lord Krishna, we become dear to him, then we will be considered like a Mahatma. And of course, we have heard many times that this human form is very rare. Bhakti Yoga is very rare. To be able to hear Bhagavad Gita is very rare. Not everybody gets an opportunity to do that. What does Bhagavad Gita say? Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhe. Out of thousands, hardly one will try for perfection. And out of thousands of those who have achieved perfection, Krishna says, hardly one knows me in truth. So it's very, very rare to reach that highest and most perfect goal. But we need to start somewhere, and it starts with basic faith, which is Adav Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha. We associate with devotees, and then we reach that, gradually reach that highest stage. So, what we learned from today's very first verse that we recited is Krishna says it doesn't matter if you fall in one of these four categories of pious people, you just come to me. When you come to me, even though there is a desire for an exchange for devotional service. Okay, like we have heard many times people say, I'm going to the temple or I'm going to the church so that because I need this, I need that. So that's okay. Krishna says that's okay. If you want something in return, that is fine. But that affection is there, then Krishna is satisfied with that affection, and gradually there will be a cleansing process. So here when Krishna is saying, Krishna is saying that if one is in full knowledge of Krishna, then one is considered to be very dear to Krishna. In fact, just now Leela Vasani sent me a very nice text, and I didn't even think about it. But she's right. There are 12 Mahajanas. I counted them on my fingers, but when I said it, I said 9 Mahajanas. That is wrong. Thank you, Leela. So there are 12 Mahajanas. So here, when we are in full knowledge of Krishna, then Krishna says that person is very dear to him. Why? Because when we reach that pure stage, then the only purpose that a person has is, I want to serve Krishna with love and devotion. Now in chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. If one worships Krishna with love and devotion, then he says, Dadami Buddhi Yoga. Then he says, I will give the understanding by which one can come to me. So it's Krishna is trying to say that, like we heard in this last verse that we read, where Krishna says, I am in their hearts, they are in my heart. What does that mean? We have heard that the Lord is situated in our heart as Paramatma, as the super soul. So Krishna says, the devotees are always in my heart and I am in their hearts. But Krishna is in the hearts of everyone. But it's just a question of realizing it. How do we realize it? With pure devotional service. So when we reach that stage of pure devotion, then at that stage, one doesn't want to know anything beyond Krishna. And one does not even want to forget Krishna. There is a golden there's a golden formula which says, what is that verse? Smartavyata satatam Krishna vismartavyana jatuchit. That means always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Now, if we always remember Krishna, obviously we will never forget him. And if we never forget him, that means we are always remembering him. So if somehow or the other we can put that into our, how do I say, somehow or the other we apply it in our lives, then what will happen, whatever we are hearing in the Bhagavad Gita, the process that Krishna has given to us in the Bhagavad Gita, that will gradually lead us to pure devotional service. Now, how can we always remember Krishna? Very easy method is by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. When we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, when we chant every day regularly, then gradually the heart starts getting purified. Then whatever we are hearing and reading, we start to understand it and we start to put it into practice. So the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to lead us to that goal, which is the highest and the perfect goal. And if you notice that the very first verse that we took today, which was verse number 16 in the long purport, so many times Srila Prabhupada has talked about knowledge. He's saying knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. Maybe if you can count how many times he's talking about knowledge in that purport. Why? Because knowledge is very integral part of devotional life. Unless we understand, unless we hear and understand, and then we will not be able to put into practice. That will not be possible. So in it, the like we I have mentioned before also, when Krishna and Arjuna were on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, there Arjuna wanted to see, who has come to fight against me. So take me in the middle of both the armies. I want to see, who I have to fight against. And that's when, Arjuna gets all confused and starts lamenting. He says, I cannot fight my own relatives. And then Krishna starts speaking the Bhagavad Gita. Now, if he wanted, Krishna wanted, he could have just, looked into the eyes of Arjuna and given the whole knowledge to him, made himself realize. Of course, Arjuna was pure devotee and self-realized, but he was put in that condition so that he laments, and Krishna is able to recite the Bhagavad Gita all over again, give it to us again 5,000 years ago. So knowledge is very, very important, but just knowledge is not sufficient. We hear, we hear, we hear. That is very nice, but then we need to put it into practice. Now, practice means just like I'm unwell, so I go to the doctor and the doctor gives me a prescription. Doctor explains to me everything. Okay, this is the disease you have. These are the medications. This is what the medicine will do. These are the side effects of the medicine. This is the dosage that I want you to take for X number of days. And then you will be relieved of this disease and the disease will be gone. That's very good. I go to CVS or Walgreens and I get my prescription filled. I bring it in and I just leave that bottle of medicine on the shelf and I just look at it, and then I recollect, I call up the doctor and I say, Doctor, my disease is still there. What do I do? So he says, did you take the medicine? And I'm like, no, it's on the shelf. I see it. I look at it every day. Is that sufficient? No. I have to open the bottle. I have to put the pills in my mouth. Then only those pills will start working and I'll be able to relieve myself of that disease. So also Bhagavad Gita, it is nice to hear, yes, the prescription is given in the Bhagavad Gita to us, what we need to do, what we should do, what we should not do, but then we need to put it into practice. And the very first thing that Krishna wants us to do is, he says, Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dhridavritaha. That satatam means always. Satatam kirtayanto means chanting mam, my. You chant my holy name. So when we chant the holy name, then Krishna is pleased with our sincere effort to chant on a daily basis regularly. Then he gives us the understanding by which we can understand the Bhagavad Gita and we can understand him. So it's my very humble request to all of you that if you're chanting, increase your chanting. If you're not chanting, please start chanting every day. It only takes about 7 minutes or so, 7 or 8 minutes to chant one round every day. And I don't think that giving 7 or 8 minutes of our from our 24 hours in a day to the Supreme Lord in a attitude of gratitude to him, that okay, Lord, you've given me so much. You've given me eyes to see, you've given me ears to hear, you've given me a tongue to taste and to speak. I have all my senses intact. I have a roof over my head. I have food on the table. You've given me air and sunshine and everything that we can be grateful for. So the least we can do is chant at least one round every day. So I'm going to end over here and I want to know if anyone has any questions. No questions? Okay, so since there are no questions, and so we will see you next week. And thank you all of you. I'm glad to see Vaishali, not see but hear, not see but see that she is logged in, Vaishali and Bhavna, and of course the regulars, and Leela Vasani, Charanya, Amalan, Michael, Himant. Thank you all for coming today, and we will see you next week. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Gita ji.
Thank you, Gita ji. Hare Krishna.